Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Tis the season.
Tis the season, Dave.
It's ice.
For ice. For fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
For angry French dudes.
Oh, God, the angriest. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Goon.
Boss, the boss, Ray. He is the master.
You have my respect. If ever there comes a time when it gets down to you and me, I will lay you the fuck out, kid.
This has all the elements of a sports masterpiece.
Ready? Yes. Thank you for asking.
This is about to get ugly.
Good times.
It's a film.
It is a film. And listen, it's a film brought to you by, well, it's a podcast about a film. And the podcast is brought to you by Steven. Steven, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For making us watch Goon, the 2011 hockey comedy starring Sean William Scott, written by them Superbads.
Evan Goldberg and Jay Baruchel.
Yep. And I think this might surprise you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen this movie before.
Neither had I.
Okay. Okay.
This is a movie that's been in my orbit for a while because Jeff and Adam, Todd Brown, love it.
Yes, this is a movie that a lot of people I love and respect like this movie.
Yes.
And this is 2011, so naturally it's going to be a little dated. That is 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago.
11 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
The world was a different place back then.
Yeah, it was. And so, yeah, this is mainly it's a reverse Happy Gilmore in that it's a nice guy who's very violent at hockey but can't play hockey.
Yeah, he's terrible at it.
Yeah, and gets picked up to play hockey as an enforcer,
as a goon.
Essentially.
Yeah.
As a goon. How'd you like this movie?
Dave, I thought this movie was a delight.
Yeah. It's been a while for me to laugh out loud, and I laughed aloud.
Yeah, almost constantly. Like every scene, there was something that made me really laugh, whether it was a solid punchline or a sight gag, or there's a lot of awkwardness in this movie that is just, this movie is fucking weird. I love it. I love how weird it is.
Yeah, it's not without its problems, but I would argue a lot of the problems are more indicative of comedy at the time.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there is homophobic jokes, right? I would argue that the movie isn't, it's not handling gay characters great. The gay character in this is just sort of like
just
annoyed.
There. Yeah, he's just kind of there.
But the characters, the things they're saying, you got to understand that this starts with a bunch of dipshits from like Central Mass. Yeah. And I'm just like, yep, I know these guys.
Yeah.
And so it's like the things they're saying out of their mouth is, I would argue, accurate.
The homophobic jokes that are in it aren't being made to make us laugh. They're being made to sort of show what a dipshit a character is.
Yeah, they might still be part of a joke, but it definitely isn't, we're making fun of gay people. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're making fun of these, again, Central Massachusetts jackasses.
So, yeah.
It's also there's not too much of it. I would actually argue the worst thing is that it's got basically one female character, and she's not very well realized.
No,
played by Allison Pill, and it's like, man.
The cast in this movie is out of control. Related to that, that is accurate. That is a fair criticism, but I also want to make it clear that nobody in this movie is a real person.
Yes.
Like everybody sort of
I would argue
behaves
not
in
even,
this heightened reality.
not even the main character.
No,
really.
no, goodness, no.
Yeah.
He's not.
But it's more of like, they don't give her much to do. She's Alison Pill.
Yeah.
And like, I thought about, for obvious reasons, Slapshot, and how even the women in Slapshot, a deeply problematic film,
Yes.
are still more dimensional.
Yeah.
Which is just funny to me that's like a movie made in the 70s.
Well, yeah. That's true.
This is, obviously, I think it's fair to bring up Slapshot because this is clearly like
Oh, yeah.
a love letter to movies like Slapshot.
Yeah, just about the real heroic pieces of trash that play hockey.
Yes. Oh my God. They really did nail like a type of person.
Yes. Incredible.
And there's I don't have I don't have many notes. I just want to shout out to the my favorite line of this movie. I'm just going to get it out now.
Okay.
Is the guy when he meets them all and they're all surly and in the room, and one guy goes, "I got 2 rules. Stay away from my fucking Percocets, and do you have any fucking Percocets?" Which I thought was the most perfect line to describe that.
Oh man, that character, the goalie. Did you recognize him? He's the friend from Wolf Cop.
No shit. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He gave me Ziggy vibes.
He's like Ziggy adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, I should have known because I remember the Wolf Cop friend gave me Ziggy vibes as well.
Yeah. He's also I'm sorry I don't know the actor's name off the top of my head, but if you're listening, if you're listeners of our podcast, you're probably familiar with the Wolf Cop films. He's also the guy that gets sectioned by a fence in Final Destination 2.
He does.
To talk about the cast, the French guy, LaFlame, is the main character from that movie Crazy we just watched.
No shit.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh my God. He's good in this. You can kind of tell he's a good actor.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can tell. Like, and this movie has a lot of that. Again, Alison Pill. It's like,
Pill,
Alison, you are so much better.
Eugene Levy is his dad.
Yeah. I would argue the parents also, they don't quite... The parents don't work to me, but we'll get into that. I generally liked this movie, but when you have to do a podcast about it, it's like, oh, I'm going to talk about every part of it.
Sure.
But
I just wanted to finish calling out the cast.
Liev Schreiber.
Liev Schreiber obviously is Ross Ray.
He's perfect.
The rival Goon. He is perfectly realized. Incredible use of a Liev Schreiber in this movie.
Yes. The thing I like about this movie, I guess we'll get into it more, but it's well acted.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. And like they get people who like Liev Schreiber, they make a lot of complex characters in this, where it's like the morality, we'll talk about it, but like that diner scene and stuff like that, where it's like these moments where you're like, fuck man, like it's great. The like weird respect they have for each other.
Yeah, it's like movies about like rival soldiers or something where they're like, oh, I respect you, but we gotta fight because we gotta fight. Like he's like an old retiring hockey player who's an infamous goon enforcer who just wants to go out, with one last glorious fight. Kim Coates is their coach.
Yeah. Just being the most
just the most Kim Coates he's ever been.
The most.
Oh man, there's I think that's all. Well, Jay Baruchel, obviously.
Yeah.
I think that's all the main people I wanted to call out. But there's a brief cameo from of course, Sean William Scott. A brief cameo from one of the Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah. And that was weird because they're not playing Canadians. They're in Massachusetts, I think, for that scene. Yeah. And I was like, that's odd.
I assume this is probably a Canadian film, though.
Yeah.
So many Canadians in it.
Yeah. In the credits, I think Hannah pointed out while we were watching of like just so many Canadian production companies. Yeah. It's where else are you going to make a fucking...
Where else are you going to make a movie about hockey?
Yeah. Sean William Scott, who I'd also argue... this is my, I guess, spiciest take. Mm-hmm. I think Sean William Scott could be a dramatic actor. I think he has it in him, and it's not realized, and no one has given him that shot.
I think he's done some stuff where it comes out a little bit. Like this movie is weirdly a good example.
Yeah. Southland Tales. That's a terrible movie. I think there's a little bit of him in that where I'm like, ooh, I see it.
Yeah.
I see that he could do this.
Mm-hmm. He's done some other movies too. But yeah, I think you wouldn't immediately think of him for a role like this. And it's not like a traditional... It's not like a character. It's not like a Stifler type character that you would immediately picture him as. He's like this weird, so adorable and endearing, but he's just weird.
Yeah.
He's just
so
a
the
weird
plot
guy.
is he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
Who is very good at beating people up.
Yes.
And he doesn't necessarily like doing it. It's what
just a thing he's good at. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a bouncer. He's, I think, adopted. He's part of this. It's the idea is that he's got it's a nice Jewish family. His brother is like the
his brother's
successful
a
one.
doctor. His mom and dad are both doctors, and he's
right.
Yeah, he has a whole scene where he's like, "I'm stupid."
Yeah,
but I'm good
I thought
at
his
this.
parents were. I'm not saying there aren't parents like this. I thought like we didn't need that much disapproval. Because, like, when they do the scene where everybody's fucking cheering his name and shit, and the parents are just like, I don't like this. It felt a little like, and like you said, nobody's really quite a fully realized character.
That did kind of make sense to me. I mean, we only see the parents in 2 scenes. Another weird, to call out how this movie kind of has complex characters, and we're talking about how the actors in this are kind of playing against type a little bit. Eugene Levy is not funny in this movie. He's not playing a funny character.
No, he's not even the straight man. He's just he's the disapproving dad, and that's it.
Yeah. We only see him in 2 scenes, but I think 3. That's the beginning, and then the hockey game, and then a dinner after the hockey game.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense because their whole thing is they regard this like a circus. Right. And it's like this is beneath you, and he's like, no, it's not beneath me. This is what I'm good at, and people like love me for it, and they're wearing jerseys that have our name on the back of it. How is that not great?
Yeah, I think what it is there's a thread there that I want to talk about, which I feel like the movie starts and never completes.
Yeah.
Which is this, like, the shame stuff about what he does. Mm-hmm. And he says stuff where he's like, little kids are wearing shirts with our names on it. How do you think this is bad, right?
Yeah.
And, like, he makes that point, and then they never really follow it up in a meaningful way, I guess. Where it was like, I was expecting to see him use his goonery to, like, do something that's morally good. You know what I mean? Or like,
he does.
Like, I expected more of that at the end.
I see what you're saying. I sort of like that the ending of the movie didn't go that way. Like he does use his goonery for stuff that's morally good, because he hits his low point when he gets into a fight with the French guy, his French roommate, who right. In the story of the movie, he's brought onto this league basically to protect this star French player who got his bell rung 3 years ago by Liev Schreiber, and it's never been the same since. He's like scared out on the ice. So they bring in Sean William Scott as a goon, specifically to watch the French player whose name is Xavier Laflamme, specifically to watch Laflamme's back. And so he has like his low moment when they have a fight, and he's like, well, he just doesn't watch his back, and he gets creamed and they lose.
Right.
And then so they have like him basically taking a beating for his team. Like he comes in, he swoops in and saves Laflamme in the next game, and then he takes he blocks the shot on the goal with his face.
Yeah.
So like they show him,
it's brutal.
It is really fucking brutal.
Unless someone steps on his ankle with the fucking skate.
The skate. It is surprisingly brutal for this movie.
Yeah, you feel it.
But like it's sort of, there's that found family idea where it's like, this is where he belongs. He's like giving it his all for these guys, and they love him for it, and they're winning games because of it, and they're forming bonds and friendships and stuff. Like I think that's this movie's version of him using his goonery for something that's morally good.
And I think ultimately you're right in that the things I'm hitting, the things that are like not rubbing me the wrong way, that felt like threads that weren't complete, I'm not sure if I would want it, because then it just makes it a very typical Hollywood film.
Right, a typical sports movie.
Yeah, I guess what it is that it does have a little of that. Like him, his love story is basically that.
Yeah.
So
it's very cute though, the love story.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And so like it's one of those things where it's like I guess I don't know how subversive I need it to be. And I guess in the end I do think it probably did the right choices. And again, it's very much tribute to Slapshot, a film that also like takes the sports idea and then like changes it, right? I believe the climax of Slapshot is them just choosing violence, if I recall.
I think so. I haven't
like
seen Slapshot since high school, Dave. So.
Oh, okay. I remember it's like a battle between like, do we want to be a spectacle or do we want to play hockey? And then at the end they're like, yeah, spectacles.
We want to be a spectacle, yeah.
Yeah.
And this movie does a similar thing where the actual climax is they get in. Let me back up a second. They get into it's typical sports movie setup where they're in the playoff game against Liev Schreiber's team. So it's like the showdown between him and Sean William Scott is finally going to happen. So but the actual climax is their fight. It's not whether or not they win the game. And the movie actually ends. And you don't get to see if they win the game. Like it ends with a minute and a half left on the clock, but he's already won. Like he's in the back with Allison Pill. Well, he's already beaten Liev Schreiber.
And they do the thing with LaFlame, like clearly has gotten his mojo back. Mm-hmm. So like they do the things that matter. They focus on the characters.
Yeah.
And that is what makes it a very good sports movie, is that I do think that's one of the things a lot of sports movies, the bad ones, focus too much on like, well, do they win or not? You know?
Yeah.
Where it's more about, it should be more about the characters and the drama of those characters.
Right.
Than anything else.
They even give a small arc to like the disastrous team captain, like the divorced guy. But like,
yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, he like, he has a whole arc of where his life has fallen apart, but he's still trying to keep it together for his team. And then he actually has an arc. Like he picks a fight with Liev Schreiber, which is a really funny moment where Liev Schreiber's like,
"You sure?
You sure, man?"
So good.
Easily beats him. But then like before the last game, he actually gives like a pretty rousing speech. It's like an emotional speech. You're like, oh, all right, man. All right, divorced guy.
Yeah, because he keeps trying, right?
He keeps trying. Thing. Yeah.
And he finally
does it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things like that. Like if you think of a movie like Hot Fuzz does that too, where they'll give the characters little arcs. Where it's like what he said bit, where he keeps saying, and then at the end, it reverse, where like they know to give every character like a little something.
Yeah, give them somewhere to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it a good ensemble aside from the main thread, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which is, like it's every character feels very fully realized in that the bits they're doing. Again, Allison Pill is the only one who doesn't get enough. Like she doesn't get to be that funny. And she
does have a little bit of a thing, but you're right that she's not.
Her thing is she sleeps around and she feels ashamed. And it's like, man, I don't know about that.
I think her thing, that's essentially it, but it's more that she's very direct to a humorous degree.
Right.
But yeah, that's usually how it comes out, is like that. But
she doesn't. I don't think she gets enough. But
she doesn't get enough, no. But she also she had Scott Pilgrim, I think, this same year, so she had a decent year. She's great in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, she has a great career too.
She's pretty fucking great.
She's doing fine.
A-okay. But yeah,
it's the one hit against this movie. Really, it's just that women don't really have a. This is a thing in comedy in general, which is like women don't get anything to do, or not nearly enough.
Yeah. Also, it's a sports movie about a men's hockey team, so it's just like, obviously there's no women on the team, so
right.
But yeah, Allison Pill could have used a little bit more to do, but she is funny with what she has.
Oh yeah, for sure. She's great.
That scene where he meets her for coffee and tries to order a Gatorade. Oh my god!
Oh yeah,
brings her the stuffed mascot. They have this recurring bit with the stuffed mascot that's really funny. He keeps like, oh, it's no. She like at one point when they're on the phone, she's like, and he's like, well, admits that he has a crush on her, and she's like, I kind of do too. Like, I actually sleep with that mascot doll you bought me sometimes. Like, oh no, that's not weird at all. It's official. Like, they keep having this gag about it being an official product.
Oh yeah, and I love So the beauty of Sean William Scott's character is he's just so simple. Again, it does remind me a little Happy Gilmore, where it's the idea of someone who's so enveloped by a hobby that they see the world that way. Like when she comes up to him after breaking up with her boyfriend and she's crying and he's like, "What's wrong? Did you just watch Rudy?" Such a good line.
Incredible line.
And again, ordering Gatorades, like they knew exactly what to do with Sean William Scott, which is just hockey sports. That's all he cares about.
Well, it's not even entirely that. Like, he's not that into hockey. Right. Before he gets on the team, it's just that he himself is he's like earnest in a childlike way. Like he's just completely earnest all of the time.
So a big part of this movie, and it comes to the word goon, is and I thought there's so many people who got this, including obviously the writers, and the Massachusetts of it all really spoke to me because there is a genre of like a goon, of a tough guy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them in the punk scene where it's like people like mosh pits, right?
Yeah.
Mosh pits have specific rules where it's like, we're not going to like hurt each other too much. We're going to hurt each other just the right amount.
Yeah.
And there's this almost like this honor amongst goons is the idea.
Yeah.
And it makes him believable in that he's a goon who doesn't particularly like violence.
Right.
Is the idea. Like, they show him as a bouncer at the beginning, and he's like punching a guy in the alley and like looks to his boss, and the boss nods, and he's just like, all right, sorry, dude.
I'm sorry,
and, like,
man.
Hits him again.
Keeps punching him.
Because it's just that he's not, like we said, it's just that what he's good at, what he's built as. I think Liev Schreiber really, like, he reminds me of very specific people that I know.
Yeah.
Where it's, again, this like, someone's like, I want to fight. And they're not like, oh, let's fight. It's like, are you sure? Do you really want to do this?
He did.
All right. I'll make this quick. Like, where it's like,
yeah,
it's a sport. Brawling is a sport to them.
Yeah.
And it's nothing personal.
Yeah. I really loved that aspect of it, where it's like none of them take it personally. And it's like not a personal grudge between Liev Schreiber and Sean William Scott. It's just like, well, we're both the enforcers, so we gotta fight. Like, we gotta fight. Like, I would
argue this is a sports movie. The sport isn't hockey.
It's fighting.
Yeah. And it if you think of it that way, it completely makes sense. The part where he's with the other guy and they're about to like start playing, the guy goes, "Hey man, you want to fight?"
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, sure."
I love. Yeah, they're just lining up for the puck drop, and the guy opposite him is just like, "Hey, you want to fight?" Yeah, okay. And they get in their fight. And they get broken up, and like Sean William Scott, as he's getting led to the penalty box, he's saying to the ref, he's like, "That's a really nice guy." And they sit him down in the penalty box, and he waves at him.
Yeah, and they're just like buddies.
Yeah,
that was something I wanted a little more of. Is like they do it a little bit at the end, and I get why they ended it where they do. But I kind of wanted him and Liev Schreiber to have a hangout afterwards or something.
They probably will.
It's implied. So the scene that's like the most powerful is, it's probably in like the third act where he's finding himself, and or right before the third act, end of the second act, where he's wandering the streets at night, and he sees Liev Schreiber, who he hasn't fought yet, in a diner, and they sit down, and he gives them advice from one goon to another. Like he's just like, I'm retiring. You're the new me. And they say he says, what does he say? Like, everybody likes a warrior until they go home.
Yeah,
like,
everybody loves a soldier until they come home and stop fighting. And there's it doesn't undercut the scene, but there is a great little joke there. So you understand what I mean by that? And he's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, he just doesn't get the metaphor. So he basically says, look, they'll use you up and kind of toss you aside when they're done. And that's it. You won't really have anything to show for it. But Sean William Scott has a different perspective where it's about the family and the camaraderie to him. He's like, I will take whatever shot I need to for these guys because they're my team.
And Liev Schreiber, being a good actor, can play it off as like, on his face, it's like, oh yeah, he knows how naive Sean William Scott is.
Yeah.
Where he looks at him and he's like, yeah, I was you once. I've said, and then later, of course, he literally uses the lines in his big speech,
in his retirement speech. Yeah.
And again, it's like he's doing it not to be like a shit. It's not a moment of like, oh, you stole my line. He's trying to like send a message to him a little bit. Like there's a subtlety there in their relationship.
And I think it's also he's been reminded of that aspect of it.
Right.
Even though...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Even though Liev is a more... he's not a bad guy, but he's a little bit more of a sinister... Well, not sinister, but he's a little bit rougher figure than Sean William Scott is.
He fights sturdier.
Yeah.
They do enough to make him a bad guy in that he is a formidable opponent, but like we weirdly want him to have the respect of him too.
Yeah.
Like you want him to respect Sean William Scott at the end. And so like he's again, it's perfect because when you think of this as a sports movie, he's the bitter athlete. Yeah. The one who's been through the ringer.
Yeah.
And you can tell that he's jaded. So it's not like you get the sense again that he's not a bad guy in the sense that he's not picking fights with random people. None of these people are like fighting civilians.
No.
They're just fighting other goons. And so like, again, they give Liev Schreiber that moment where the guy wants to fight him and he's like, dude, are you sure?
You sure?
Like, yeah. And so
oh man.
It works because it's like, yeah, on the ice he is a bit more of a bastard.
Yeah.
But you never get this feeling that these guys, you never get a feeling that these guys are like getting in bar fights, unless it's like a very mutual type of situation. You never get the feeling that they victimize people.
Right. It's all about it's all about doing it on the battlefield, as it were.
Yeah. It's about being a goon.
Yeah, it's about being a goon.
Yeah. And so that scene in the diner basically ends with them having this friendly exchange. And he's like, listen, I like you. I respect you. But if it comes down to me or you, I will lay you the fuck out. And that's perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Yeah, it's a really good scene. There's like, and the scene, we already mentioned it, where he takes the puck to the face to stop the shot and win the game. And he's getting stomped on and like slashed with the hockey sticks. Another like kind of not out of nowhere, because the movie has this weird tone where you can it sort of teaches you to kind of expect anything, but within certain parameters, but still like it doesn't feel out of place. But it is like all of a sudden, amidst all the zaniness, there's like this really visceral scene that you're just like, oh man, it's like, obviously it's visually visceral because of the violence, but it's like gut wrenching too, because he's getting fucking stomped out, and like Alison Pill is, like a good actress, like convincingly freaking out. She's like, oh my, get him out of there.
Yeah.
Like he's getting fucking destroyed.
A couple moments, and of course the showdown between him and Liev Schreiber.
The fight is so good. That fight is so good.
It's so good, and it's just two guys punching each other in the head.
Yeah.
But he goes down, and like his ankle keeps failing.
His ankle
they set it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And Liev Schreiber keeps looking to the ref and being like, "Don't stop it." It's the realization that like hockey stops for this because everybody's waiting for it, and to the point that the ref is like clearly not doing his job. And, he keeps knocking him down, and he keeps getting back up because Liev Schreiber's like, "Don't you fucking stop this?" He's got more in him.
The first time he falls down, the ref skates over, and Liev Schreiber just points at him and says, "Don't you fucking dare!"
Yeah.
It's
perfect.
Yeah, it's such a good fight, man.
And what it is it's Liev Schreiber being like, give this guy a shot in a way. It's a really good, like, where it's like a mentor-mentee situation where he's like, I'm going to beat you down. I'm not going to pull my punches, but I'm going to give you every chance to take me out here.
Right, but he wants him to beat him. But he's like, he wants Sean William Scott to win, but he's not going to throw the fight.
Exactly.
So
and then finally,
get your ass up, let's go.
Yeah. And he finally punches him out, and his tooth goes flying. And the last thing you see of Liev Schreiber is him on the ground, kind of laughing.
Yeah.
Like waking up after the fight. So it's clear that like, Yeah, it was like he didn't care. Like, if he punches out Sean William Scott, that's good for him too.
Yeah,
but
it's just another guy he's knocked out. Yeah,
yeah. So it's a delightful, like oddly positive ending of this movie.
Yeah, I like that they set up the win too. Like they have a scene early on when, because the first time Sean William Scott tries to fight on the ice, like in a hockey game, he doesn't do as well. And then Jay Baruchel takes him and shows some video of Liev Schreiber's like, okay, you got to grab the jersey, you got to do this and this. And so they basically are watching fight tapes of Liev Schreiber. Then this is really early in the film, but he points out, okay, look, he grabs them right here so that they can't quite reach him, so they punch themselves out. Then he comes in with a couple of shots, and then he comes in with the uppercut. So they set that up. So we see in the very end of the fight, at the end of the movie, Liev does that. Like, he's got him, he gets the couple of setup shots, and he goes in for the uppercut, but Sean William Scott knows it's coming, so he just fucking crushes him in the head right as he's winding up for the uppercut. Which I was, it's not amazing.
It's sports movie stuff.
It's a simple plant and payoff, but like, it's nice that they set a lot of this stuff up.
Oh yeah, there's a quality here. What makes this movie, like, again, this movie is funny.
This movie is really funny. Yeah.
I do want to stress that there are things about it which I think if I was like making this today, I'd be like, let's dial back the homophobic jokes.
Yeah.
Because what it is, so the movie makes a distinction, and this isn't me justifying it, but it's clearly trying to make a distinction, which is that at one point, because Sean William Scott's brother is gay, and they do show, like, when someone says something hateful towards gay people in this, he gets mad.
Or he uses it as a slur.
Yes.
It's
And so they draw a line where they're very much saying, like, these Boston motherfuckers or Central Mass motherfuckers will use the term gay to mean lame or bad. And like, that's one thing versus real hate. And I would say that's a very antiquated view nowadays for obvious reasons, where it's like, no, we need to not use these words in general. We need to get better habits, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. The movie never sits us down and says that. But
but it does draw a line, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think that stuff would have been easier to swallow if his gay brother character didn't have a single characteristic, which was that he's gay. Like, that's the issue, that's all he is.
Yeah, he's not a character.
And so, like, it's of its time in the sense that it's dated in the way that it's like, this is 2011, folks. We're progressive, but also not quite there, I mean, they're not doing the work that they should be doing here.
I appreciate that they're like, the most meditation they do on it is anytime Sean William Scott hears the slur, he's like, hey, my brother's gay. So it's like, it is trying to tell us dummy viewers in 2011, hey, you shouldn't say that because you're putting down people when you say that.
And I guess the other thing is they clearly wanted to point it, like, draw attention to it.
Yeah, they
were doing it on purpose. Yeah. And so they it seemed like they had something to say, but they didn't quite follow up on what they were saying. Like, there should have actually been a moment where they were like, let's stop saying this stuff. Like, where like his hockey buddy and stuff like that. Like, there could have been a moment, and it doesn't even have to be a big moment, where they just like tone it down slowly or something like that. They don't really do too much of that.
I felt like they do. Like, after
the most they do is that we're gonna go. One of my favorite. This is a technically a gay joke, but not. They're like, we're gonna go hard to this match. It's his like pump up speech, and he's like the guys in gay porn. We're gonna go gay porn hard, and they all start getting into it. Like, yeah, gay porn hard. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that was pretty funny.
Yeah. They do. I felt like the slurs kind of disappeared late as the movie went on.
They do, but yeah, there's definitely this thing where like
it's certainly
they're drawing
not
attention to it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to draw attention to it, you got to have something to say about it. And the fact that like that's the thing is like, if it was just like a couple scenes, I'd be like, they're Boston guys, and they were just like. But the fact that the movie is, there's a large amount of it devoted to that stuff, that it feels like a misstep, because ultimately they just didn't say anything
Right. They just, the most they said is, that's wrong, basically. And
Yeah, they
coulda
kind of wanted
more
to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, could have used more follow through there. It's certainly not as bad as the some of these
Judd Apatow
right.
films?
It's just like 3 years earlier with or however it was more than that, but like the 40-year-old version, which is just like 6 years before this, and is just grotesquely homophobic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Again, I wouldn't describe, and I mean, I'm not an expert on this. I don't want to speak about this, but I didn't.
Of course,
this movie was clearly not trying to be hateful, but it still feels extremely like, I guess the word is ignorant. You know, in that department, and it is like, it's worth flagging because I think this movie does a lot of really good stuff.
Misguided, I'd say.
Misguided. Yeah. And it's a shame only in that this movie, and again, I would say like, you know, again, it's a sports movie. I get it, but like they clearly, you know, the women were a blind spot too.
Yeah.
And again, that's not different, but like, I flag that only in that this is a non-conventional movie, and that's its strength. And I think it could have done stuff with that. Because what makes this movie unique is that there's no real villain. Like it's about compassion, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
And it's about like it's not a conventional storytelling either. It's about like small time victories, which is the idea of like one of the things I thought they were going to go, and I'm glad they didn't, is they set up like he doesn't know how to play hockey. And he says stuff like, "Oh, I might," and like I think even Liev Schreiber is like, "No, you're never going to be a hockey player."
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to have him like do the winning goal or something, and I'm glad they didn't. You know?
No, they just landed on.
He was never a hockey player.
No, but he is. I think the movie lands on that he is. He's just not. He's a goon. That's a hockey player though,
and he's good at what he's doing.
He's very good at what he does. Yeah, that is a genuine asset on a hockey team.
Yeah, but I am glad it didn't like, you know, do the cheesy version.
Yeah, like he didn't score I mean, he does score a goal at one point totally by accident. Yeah. And that's a funny bit, but yeah, he never he's not out there carving up the ice or anything.
Right.
He still can't really skate at the end of the movie.
Yeah. And the whole movie's kind of about like personal greatness in that like, yeah, he's this kind of a celebrity. He's not nothing, but it's also like he's just some little quarter of the world here. But in his corner of the world, he did something amazing. Even if that thing is grotesque and violent, it's an amazing moment in sports, which is what a lot of sports movies are about, right? Which is like a moment of greatness for somebody, or people, And it's really nice whenever a sports movie realizes that the scale doesn't matter.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I think this movie kind of nails that.
They didn't have him go up to NHL or whatever the pro league in Canada is called. That doesn't happen.
Right, and maybe it is good that they never show a moment where like kids are really looking up to him. I love how they do it though, because again, they're making fun of it, where it's like he's slamming a guy against the glass and there's blood, and a little girl is just thrilled.
Yeah, she's out there waving at him, and he like waves at her too as he's fucking pummeling this dude.
It's so perfect, because they are trying to show like this is a culture. There's a culture here, and it's misunderstood. Like often when there's a culture that's violent. Again, I bring it back to moshing or like punk or like anything like that. Or I guess boxing or wrestling, where it's like it's from the outside it feels very violent and stupid. It's like but like there is an honor in it.
There's rules, there's
rules,
and there's exactly. There's honor and there's tradition and there's precedent and all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is a very good comedy. I think
it's
aged better than I thought it would.
Yeah, it really, it is, for all the reasons we said, it is somewhat dated, but not as much as I would have expected.
Yeah.
And it's not like that bad. But anyway, there is something I wanted to call out. The hockey scenes are really well shot.
Oh yeah.
Like this is, I think I mean, like I said, I just told you I hadn't seen Slapshot since high school, but like the way the hockey scenes are filmed are, they're really good. It's very exciting. They have the camera right down on the ice. It's not like, I don't know the rules of hockey, but it was easy to follow the action.
Yeah, I agree.
It was just, I was not expecting the sports scenes to be as well filmed as they were.
Yeah, and again, the fight scenes, as simple as they are,
were pretty sweet. Yeah, they're really brutal.
This director went on to do Coffee and Kareem, Stuber, 8 Big Christmas. So they clearly went the side of comedy.
Yeah.
But I was looking at this and I'm like, do more sports movies. Do a boxing movie.
Well, I think Stuber's an action comedy, and I think what's it called, Kareem and Coffee?
Yeah, but this
I think
is
that
like
one is as well.
This is like a Jordan Peele situation to me, where I'm like, do a drama, win an Oscar, man. Because like that film with that scene with him and Liev Schreiber, like I'm just like, this is good.
It's a good scene.
Like,
yeah,
that's part of this movie's power, in my opinion, is that it's genuinely like there's talent.
Right,
in
and
it.
Something that's worth calling out in that scene is obviously Liev Schreiber is good, but Sean William Scott is good in that scene, and it's not it. You wouldn't think the character, the way it's been written and the way he's playing. Well, actually, the way he's playing it up to this point, you could see it, but it just doesn't seem like that character would be able to hold his own in a dramatic scene. But he does, and he does it without. He never stops feeling like the same character, but he is able to engage with Liev in this dramatic scene, and it's really well done. He's very much like a golden retriever.
He's very much. Yeah. I love the bit where Alison Pill leaves her boyfriend for Sean William Scott, and like the first thing he does is go to the boyfriend's house and take a beating.
Yeah,
let the boyfriend beat him up.
Yeah, he's just like, keep punching me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very much like this, like such a pure soul in this weird way.
Yeah.
Which is one of my, again, it's reverse Happy Gilmore, where it's like Happy Gilmore is crass in all this golf culture, where it's the opposite, where Sean William Scott is like innocent. He's an angel in all these crass assholes around him.
Yeah.
the two French Canadians with the fucking your wife stuff.
Those are
or fucking your mother.
They're Russians.
Russians, right?
They're the two Russian brothers.
Yeah, they're Russians, and it's like, I don't know, man. That's pretty. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I forget what he says. One of them, they make some terrible joke, and then
it's a combination of a few things. They're speaking in broken English.
Yeah, that was the gag.
Joking about. Yeah, fucking his mom. And then the flip side is that the guy is visibly and constantly upset by their terrible taunts. Like their taunts aren't very good, and he is so
and it's really getting at him. Yeah. One of them says, like, they make a joke that doesn't quite make sense, and he's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And one of the Russian brothers is like, fuck, I forget how he phrased it, but he basically says, yes, that's what makes it a joke, but he said it in this broken English way that I wish I could recall, but it was very, very funny.
It's very funny.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
We're just reciting jokes from the movie.
Well, I think the joke writing is good. Like, for example, the exact quote is that for the Percocets one, and it's like a little poem. 2 rules, man. Stay away from my fucking Percocets, and do you have any fucking Percocets, man? Like, it's the repeat of fucking and man that makes that really work.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's 2 rules and one of them's a question. It's just, I don't know, man. It's got to see the movie. People see the movie. Yeah. I assume people watching this have seen it. It's always hard to cover comedies because I don't want to just sit and talk about the funny lines. But luckily for this movie, it's just like...
There was a lot to talk about, yeah.
This is a movie.
Yeah.
And I guess what I mean by that is that, like, you go back and look at comedies of this era, and a lot of them, it's like, man, I don't give a fuck about this plot, right? And that's actually what made Judd Apatow stand out at the time, is that he actually tried to make plots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for better or for worse, obviously his shit got very old and very problematic.
Yeah.
But he was actually, it was the fact that comedy, the bar was so low that someone could come along and say, I'm going to do a movie with actual like emotional scenes and a story that's unique. And people glommed onto it. And I think that's what Goon kind of is. I honestly think these writers, that's what Superbad to some extent was. Although Superbad is a pretty typical plot, actually. So I scrub that.
It's also
but like this movie,
pretty dated.
Oh, it's extremely problematic.
Yeah.
The entire goal is to get women drunk to take advantage of them. That movie lives and dies by the fact that the performances in that, I would argue, are great across the board.
Yeah.
That really helps. But yeah. I mean, the movie knows it's problematic at the time too. But it's made as a joke.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's millions of I haven't seen that movie in ages, so I'm sure if I went back and watched it, I'd find out all sorts of horrific shit.
Probably. Yeah, I haven't revisited that one in over 10 years, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, and again, it's comedy from this era. Comedy, man, comedy's tough.
Nothing ages quicker than comedy.
It's really true. And also, like, most comedies are bad, I would argue, more than any other genre.
It's tough to make a good one, yeah. And it's tough, I mean, you know, it's tough for comedies to be classics because comedy's based on surprise. So,
right. And so the fact that this movie made me laugh in almost every scene, and it relies on jokes that were different for the time. Like the weird homophobic stuff is throughout, but like they're not leaning on it. It feels, a lot of the jokes in this do feel kind of fresh. Mm-hmm. Watching it 10 years, 11 years later, but most of all, it just feels like they did something unique with the plot and characters.
Yeah.
There's still some characters that are absolutely need more work, but the main group and the main plot stands out enough that, like, yeah, I think it did what people praised Judd Apatow for doing better.
Yeah, it did it in 90 minutes for one thing.
Yeah. Yes. And again, it just generally did it with less problematic shit. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it has more to say, I feel like, at the end of the day.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, like 40-Year-Old Virgin, like, that main plot is fucked up.
It's nonsense,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. But like, you know. Yeah, so out of this era, this might be one of the best comedies of this era, I would say.
Yeah.
But a lot of that has to do with comedy just being, yeah, real shitty. Yeah. What's the last good comedy you've seen?
Oish. Goon.
I can't even name. Hold on. Sorry, everybody.
I mean, The Menu.
Oh, yeah. That is a good comedy. Yeah, comedy has been all right.
Yeah. Comedy at this time, though, in the aughts and early 20-teens.
Man, yeah, sorry. I'm looking at some comedies right now. Comedies have gotten better. Because we also got The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Mm-hmm. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Like, comedies have become, like, they're starting to try to become something.
Been a good year for them.
Yeah, it hasn't been a good year, yeah. Bros, I still haven't seen, but I've heard good enough things. I don't need to list comedies.
Yeah, you probably. I think we can be done, Dave.
Oh yeah, we're more than done, but I just thought it was interesting. Yeah, Goon.
That's catch it like a hockey puck to the face.
Yeah, in theaters now. Goon. I don't know why I'm going in that direction.
What are we doing?
I don't know. Hey, Steven.
Why is any of this happening?
Steven, thank you for having us watch Goon.
Thank you.
Again, neither of us had seen it. It was on my list. It's one of those movies where I was like, yeah, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And it's like, when am I going to sit down and watch Goon on a free night? So.
Well, today was the day.
Thank you.
I'm going to watch the sequel now, too.
Yeah, there's a sequel. I don't know about that. I haven't heard too many people say Goon 2 is good.
Yeah, it probably isn't. But
I don't know.
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. Listen, folks. Thank you for listening. We have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Gamefully Unemployed. GAMEFULLY Unemployed. You go on there for just $5 a month. You get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Spiel Boys, Star Trek The Next Futurama. Those are all on there for $5 a month. For a little more, you can watch movies with us every Friday night.
Yeah.
Keep your ears open for the Bud Rain series we're doing this month. We're going to have a few more we just watched. We're done with Hypecast, but we should be hitting up a couple new movies this month. I don't know. There's shit going on. Yeah.
It's it's the holidays. We're taking it a little easy, but you're still gonna get delicious shows.
Yeah, I said this before. Is the thing people might notice is that beginning of January might be a little light because the problem isn't the holidays; it's after the holidays because we are spending the holidays and not recording.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so it's interesting how that works. Is that like the holidays themselves? There's actually plenty of shit that'll be out.
Yeah, we're still chugging along with stuff. Speaking of which, we also have a store. You can head over to gamefullyunemployed.com. You find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your hockey punching peepers onto that.
Yeah, if you know someone with a torso, we have shirts. And that's a good gift for someone with a torso.
Great gift for somebody with a torso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
your favorite trunked person. They're good trunk coverings.
Get them the shirt.
Still called torsos trunks.
Sure. Yeah.
I think so. It's like if humans were trees, the torso would be the trunk, right?
Really?
Right?
What about the genitals? Or like the legs?
That's like
you can go even lower.
That's true. Everything's a trunk. Everything's a trunk.
Okay,
it's
we're
all
just trunks.
We're just trunks.
The hair is the rest of us.
Yeah.
The tree.
Yeah, the hair is the leaves, Dave.
Mm-hmm. And the branches.
What if trees had hair instead of leaves?
Ooh,
long tangles of human hair.
Yeah, like gnarled hair.
What a nightmare
like
scenario.
Oily hair. Yeah, no one would go in the woods ever.
No, we'd cut them all down. We'd have killed the planet way faster.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Imagine being like even the like the biblical version being like Adam and Eve and God's like, here's your garden, and it's like, oh no, I'm good. I'm all set. I don't need any of this. You can start over.
Yeah. Got any clippers?
I don't want life.
Yeah,
no,
this is fine.
Yeah. I don't know what this is.
Thank you. But we already got one. So you can take this right on back.
Oh.
All right.